Hello and welcome back to the Stitch with Love podcast. My name is Shannon. I am a knitter and a crocheter and a final year accounting student based in Scotland. If you want to follow me on any more of my social media where I post more frequently, I will leave those on the screen and in the description below, along with project pages, yarns that I've mentioned, things like that. If you enjoyed today's video, consider giving me a like and a subscribe so that you don't miss any future uploads, and let's get into this week's content. So I do finally have a finished object and I have some exciting life news if that interests you, so be sure, if it does interest you, be sure to stick around till the end to find out what that is. So we will start with finished objects, we'll go to works in progress, and then we'll just have some chatty stuff at the end. So without further ado, this is, well, I'm calling it a finished object. It needs a block, but this is my Epiphany cardigan by Cupid Knits, and all the ends are woven in. I know that they look loose, they're not. Basically, when I weave my ends in, I like to leave maybe about that much, just until after I've blocked it, because I've had times before where I've woven in the ends and then I've blocked something and then the ends pop out and I find it really hard to get them back where they should be. So I find doing it that way makes it a lot easier for me, because then I can just go trim the ends afterwards. But this is the cardigan. It looks funky with this t-shirt, try and ignore that. But it's very cute. I think the sleeves might grow a little bit. If they don't, then it's okay. Like, you know, it's not bad. It's not a bad length. I really love the colour. This is Drops Kid Silk in dark rose. For ages I kept saying berry because it makes me think of like a berry colour. It's actually dark rose. So apologies if you got confused in any previous podcasts and tried to look for a Drops colourway called called Berry, and it wasn't there. But yes, all finished. I like the fit of it. I'm really happy, and I am very excited to now have this off the needles. It's been ongoing since April, so very, very happy to have this finished. So now we'll move on to works in progress. Again, as I always do, I'm just going to grab no particular order and talk about what works in progress I have. This one's gonna, when I hold it up, it's gonna look really funny, just because of where I'm at on it. So this will be the J Top by Alethea Handmade. This is a test knit. I have, I think, a few weeks left. I have till the 2nd of August, so yeah, I think a couple of weeks. But I mean, I'll probably finish this week, so I'm not worried about that. Being very careful, I'm not holding it there. I'll explain why in a minute. So I have finished the body. It's rolling a bit, I think, because it's kind of a small folded hem. I'm gonna see how it is once I've blocked it, but I might, if it doesn't fix itself, I might leave that in the feedback, just that maybe, I don't know if this is quite long enough, but I mean, it seems to be working for everyone else, so I think it just needs a block, to be fair. I've done one armhole, which looks a little bit wavy. So the armhole is meant to be really big. That's part of the design. And I followed the instructions for the I-cord. However, mine's looking a little bit, not disastrously, but a little bit wavy. So I'm going to finish everything else, block it, and if it's still, I mean, this is one of the good things about, I've got a couple of weeks, but the last bits of finishing won't take me that long. I'm going to block it, see how it goes, and if it's still quite wavy and just kind of weird, I will rip back and do less stitches. Because, I mean, it does say in the pattern, this is just a recommendation. You can change the number of stitches you pick up as you like, but we'll see. I might need to go back and change it. The reason why I'm very careful about how I hold this side is currently on the needles. Relatively smallish interchangeable needles because I'm about to do the I-cords. So yeah, I have to be very careful how I hold this. But I've just got the other armhole to I've got the other armhole to do, and then the neckband, and then I can block it, which is very exciting. As far as yarn goes, this is Drops Cotton Merino in the colourway Pistachio Ice Cream. I'm struggling to speak today. Why? This is my last ball. Got one armhole to do and one neckline, so be fine. I'm not worried about it. But yeah, this is the first time I worked with this yarn, and I'm really enjoying it. I am finding it really easy to work with, and it feels nice and soft. Something I would love to do at some point is work with the Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino and compare them. I am aware that this is a DK weight yarn, and the Knitting for Olive one is more of a 4-ply, so they aren't completely comparable, if that makes sense. They're not the same weight, and they're slightly different in yarn fibre composition as well, because this is a 50-50, and the Knitting for Olive one I think is like 70% cotton and 30% merino, so there's difference there in the composition. But just I've heard everyone talking about it, and I would really love to knit. I'm thinking about knitting the Sylvester Tea by Cupid Knits. If I can, I'll put a picture up. Just I think it would be a great, I mean I could wear it out and about, but I think it would also just be, it would be great to have in like my work wardrobe. I will come to that in the chatty bit. And the cotton merino I think will have a lovely drape to it, but not be so hot, which means I can probably wear it a bit more all year round rather than just in the colder months. But yeah, so that's my little tangent about Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino, and also the Drops one as well. But we'll move on to the next work in progress. Now, last week I said in the podcast that I wasn't sure if this looked any different from when I had shown you the first time. And then I went back through and realised I never showed you anyway because it wasn't casted on. Oh dear me, but that's fine. But I know this does look different because I have started, I think I only... No, I'm getting confused with Wednesday. I think that's where I'm getting confused. I hadn't incorporated the second colour in it yet. So it does look different. This is the Marina by Amber O'Brien, and I am onto the stripy section. See if I can hold that up. And yeah, I'm really enjoying working on this. It's been ages since I worked on a shawl, and I'm so excited to be working on one again. I loved knitting them a few years ago. It was one of those things that I made shawls all the time. I always had a shawl on the needles, and then I started going through like a jumper and t-shirt sort of phase, and then kind of fell off the shawl train for a bit. And I was thinking earlier this year that I've not knit a shawl in a while. That was before I knit the big Shetland lace one, and that I wanted to do one again. So that's why I cast this on. Plus this pattern has been in my queue for I think about 3 years, so it's about time I casted it on. It was in my pattern library as well. I just hadn't started it for whatever reason. But yarn, talk about yarns. So this is Black Elephant in the colourway Blue Moon 4, and I purchased this from Be Inspired Fibres in Edinburgh. And then this is Giddy Yarns on her Sparkle like 4-ply base in the colourway City Nights, and I picked this up from one of her like open studio craft days that she does. And I just really like how these work together. I think especially now that I'm doing the stripy section and I can kind of see them play together a bit more. I am really, really enjoying this. I'm aware that for some people's taste it might be a bit too busy, but I love it. I think especially say if I had like a very neutral outfit on underneath, and then just this for like a little bit of fun. Be great. And yeah, probably should talk about needles. I forgot to talk about needles on this one. I'm currently using 3mm for the I-cord on this, by the way. Using 3.75 on the shawl, which is recommended. I did not gauge swatch because I never gauge swatch for shawls. I'm not worried about it being a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, so I don't. Best practice would be to do that. The only time that I would be if I was designing a shawl myself. If it's someone else's shawl, I just kind of wing it. But that's how I do it. I choose to live life on the edge. Doesn't mean you should, but because I'm not worried about the fit. I don't think it's that big of an issue. As long as you make sure you have enough yarn, because that's the only thing with knitting off gauge. Sometimes it will mean that you use more or less yarn. Less is not a bad thing, but more could be an issue. You might end up with the yarn chicken, so just FYI. Lastly, now I actually don't think I ever showed this on the podcast. I cannot remember. If I did, it was ages ago. But I think at this point I hadn't really come back to social media just yet. I definitely hadn't started my TikTok or my Instagram. But this is a languishing whip that looks quite different and is very tangled. What is happening here? So, when I knit my like jumpers and things, I do prefer top down in the round seamless. That's my preferred way of doing it. However, I am changing things up with this one. This is self-drafted, so I'm not following a pattern for this one, it's just maths. And the story behind it is back in March, I was going to be going to a concert and I really wanted to make something for it. So I went onto Stitch Fiddle and I generated, first I went onto Canva and kind of wrote out the lyrics in a font that I liked, but also could be converted, if that makes sense, into a colourwork chart. And then put that into Stitch Fiddle and generated a colourwork chart with one of the lyrics from one of my favourite songs from that band. And I had the full intention of finishing it and wearing it to the concert, and I never finished it in time. However, one, I wanted to go back and finish this anyway because otherwise it's just sitting there and it's incomplete and I don't like that. Two, I want to be able to use the project bag again. And three, I will go see this group again in the future. When I say band group, basically it was a solo artist and a band that decided to tour together for the time being. I don't know how long that will be, but they're writing songs together and touring together. But I will go see them again. I don't know when that will be, but I will go see them again. So I'm thinking I may as well finish it because I'll wear it to another gig in the future. And so I'll show you, I finished the back panel and I've started one of the front panels. I haven't decided yet if it's going to be left or right, but my colour book does look a little bit bunchy and like crinkly. I hope blocking will deal with a lot of that. I also did not know when I started this about colour dominance, even though I've done colour work before, so there might be some issues there, but I know it's not perfect. Pardon me. I know it's not perfect, but I'm still very proud of what I'm doing. So this is it. It is rolling because it is stuck in it. This is the back panel of the cardigan, and I was really brave. I could have just done 4 panels, but I was like, no, you know what? I'm gonna try and do shaping, and I did short row shaping for the shoulders, and I'm so proud of myself. Whether or not this is actually gonna work will be a whole other thing when I go to put this together, but I did the maths and I based it off a cardigan that I already have that I like the shape of, and it's matching up pretty well. So I am very, very excited and very impressed. So yeah, we have the back panel, which is a little bit bunchy, but it is unblocked. So I can't expect too much out of it. And then the first front panel is very plain. there's nothing to write home about this one. I have just, because the idea that I have is the back's going to have the writing on it, then everything else is just going to be cuffs and, you know, button bands and things like that in this colour, and then it's just going to be plain stockinette in the main colour. So it doesn't look like much yet, but it will. The thing that's going to be interesting for me is when it gets to a certain point, I can't remember how many rows, but I did calculate it. It gets to a certain point, I have to start doing shaping for the V-neck, so the decreases there, and then at one point I have to do short row shaping and the decreases at the same time. I figured out how I think it's going to work in my head, but we'll see when I actually get to it if it works. So yeah, this yarn, they're both the same, like both colours are the same type of yarn. It's just like non-superwash wool that I picked up from a farmer's market in New Zealand years ago. I can't even remember the name of the farmer, to be fair, but I'm realising when I'm working with this as well how much I enjoy working with non-superwash. So I think I might start working with more non-superwash in the future. It's just, I don't know, there's something about the texture of it, I absolutely love it. I would have thought it would have felt too itchy, but like, I hold this up and I don't, like, if I was to wrap it around, I wouldn't say it was necessarily like super soft, but it's not irritating. And depending on when in the year the gig will be, say for example, if it's in winter, if I can get away with not taking a big coat, I will. So I might wear like a long sleeve t-shirt underneath. I can roll the sleeves up and then wear something like this on top. And if I don't have to wear a coat, then yay, because it's too hot inside to have a coat, but often it's too cold outside to not have a coat in the middle of winter. So you know, it's a little bit of a balancing act. And that is all my knitting content for this week. If you want to stick around and hear a little bit of a life update, then carry on. If not though, if you're not interested in that, hopefully I'll see you next week for the next podcast. So, life update. So as I've been talking about for, I don't know how many months at this point, I've been looking for a job. I've been looking for a job for about 4 months and it's been exhausting. I have been to about 10 interviews, done hundreds of applications, and a lot of the time just get ghosted. And it's been, to be perfectly honest, it's been an awful experience. And a lot of my friends have had the same experience and feel the same about it. It's just absolutely chips away at your confidence. And I had a job interview yesterday, which I thought went well, but I didn't want to get too confident because there's been ones before where I thought I did really well and then I lose out to a candidate with more experience. And that happens quite often. So I didn't want to get too ahead of myself. They did say that they would message me or call me today, so I knew I was going to find out quite quickly if I was successful or not. And I got a phone call this morning with a job offer. So I have, I think, about just over a week left of unemployment. And then I'm going to be working again. I applied to a bunch of different ones. I applied to full-time as well as part-time because I was thinking, you know, I'm coming towards the end of my degree. Probably in the sense of what would be best for my health would be to do a part-time job, at least until I finish. But also being full-time money is nice, and if I got a full-time job, then I would be set up for out of uni. This job is part-time, but I'm very happy with that. Again, I think because I've still got at least 3 months left of my degree. With that, being in full-time education, I think part-time is probably going to be best. And it does mean, though, that I have a little bit of security. So when it comes to November and I'm looking for my graduate positions, there might not be a lot going just because of how the academic years are different in New Zealand versus the UK. And so most graduate positions won't go up until about April, between March and May next year, to be fair. So I might not have a lot of options come November, but having this job means that even when I am looking for a graduate job, I can still be working at the same time. And it's possible as well that I might decide to do either just carry on part-time for a bit if we can afford to, or look at getting another part-time job to supplement once I finish. But I finally have a job after 4 months of grueling applications, interviews, getting ghosted, going to so many different places in Scotland and paying so much money in travel expenses, despite the fact that I am unemployed and would rather not be spending that money on travel. And it's finally paid off. So I can now, instead of spending lots of time looking for jobs, I can focus on my degree. And also, it's one of the things of, obviously, I love to knit and I want to wear my knitwear more often, but because of the roles I had previously, I always had uniforms. So a lot of the stuff that I just made for stuff I'd be wearing in my own time. But I would like to have a few pieces, and this is what I was saying about Sylvester tea, that I can also wear to work. So I'm going to start thinking about, not so much planning, but like brainstorming, I don't know, thinking of pieces I could make to help start building my work wardrobe. Even though it is relatively casual dress, I still want to look professional. I don't need to be, in a suit or anything like that, but I still want to be professional. I'm going to be a part of the admin team, so I still want to look the part. So that's my exciting life update. I am soon to be no longer unemployed, which I'm so excited about, and it feels so good to say that. I updated my LinkedIn this morning and it was the best feeling. So it's like I can breathe a sigh of relief. I can go into the weekend. I've finished my to-do list for uni as well for this week, so I can go into the weekend and just breathe. It feels very, very good. But I'm going to finish up here. One, I've run out of things to talk about, otherwise I'll just start rambling. Okay, I might not have run out of things to talk about, but I will ramble, and I'm trying not to do that. Secondly, I'm getting a dry throat, and I think I need to go have some water, to be fair. So thank you for joining me. If you want to follow me on my Instagram, TikTok, or find my profile on Ravelry, I will leave those on the screen and in the description. And thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed today's video, give me a like. If you want to, let me know what you're working on while you're watching this. Consider subscribing if you want to see more, and hopefully I will see you next week on Tuesday for a new video. Until then, bye bye.